The Bengals should just stop playing games and just trade him. But before we get into that, gotta get into the intro.
Looking at a goal. Nixon out of the backfield. Has some daylight. Hurdles to the end zone. In for the score, and he took a lick from Miles Jack, but he hung on.
Welcome to New Stripe City, your YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We do a lot of Bengals analysis here. We talk about the latest news. We talk about all kinds of stuff Bengals related. If you have fantasy players that are Bengals, you probably want to come here because we're going to let you know what you can expect from them from a realistic standpoint. And then if you're a returning diehard, appreciate you for coming back. And if you haven't subscribed, I don't know why you haven't so far, but feel free to subscribe. Hit that button down there below this video. We also have a link in the description. So please help us out. That's helps support the channel. Sorry. So we're here to talk about John Ross, right? This is like a broken record. I feel like we've been talking about John Ross for the longest here. And I just feel like the Bengals are at a point where they should just trade John Ross. Like, he hasn't worked out in terms of for the Bengals. I still think that he's going to be a talented player, whether he goes somewhere else. I'm not saying that because I'm a John Ross truther or anything like that. That's not it. It's just time to trade him. It's just time to trade him. And I think that the number one suitor to me is probably the Eagles. I mean, I think the Eagles make the most sense here. They're the most desperate at the wide receiver position. He's also got Deshaun Jackson over there, who's somewhat of a mentor for him. So why not just send him to the Eagles? I mean, they're pretty much – as my man Lord Brunson said, they're pretty much signing guys off of the street and throwing them over there. Obviously, Deshaun Jackson just got hurt. He just went down with an injury, so sorry to hear that. Djax is one of my favorite receivers, but he's had some bad luck in terms of injuries. So they clearly need a guy over there that can be a speedster. I think that he fits better in that offense with the Eagles, especially with Carson Wentz being able to bomb it. And honestly, it's just time. I mean, if the guy isn't out there at practice today, there's all of these fake lies out there saying that he's missing it because of an illness. And I'm not saying that because I know. I'm just reading between the lines myself. I don't have any player information from John Ross. I'm not connected to John Ross like that. I would just assume that being that you came out with a trade demand and now all of a sudden you're missing practice, I think that that's not an illness. I think that it's probably an issue that's kind of going on there. And just give him a fresh start. I mean, Ross actually asked for a fresh start last season. I think that he's just frustrated with his role. And why keep him here if he, obviously isn't going to be used here? We saw that in the Colts game. Wasn't used at all. Used on one snap. Why not just go out there and try to get something for him? This was a guy that was picked in the top 10. This is a guy that runs a 4.22. You got to get something for him. Now, since you haven't played him, there's not much value that you can really ask for in return. But at the end of the day, you need to trade him. And if it's not to the Eagles, you have another team in the 49ers that you could also trade him to. They look like they need a wide receiver out there. Ross is from the West Coast, is from California. So it would be probably best for him if he gets traded back to somewhere where he can actually, live at, where he's already got a place in Cali. Not saying that the Bengals should be using that as their first interest, but I mean, it makes sense. Go ahead and trade him to the 49ers. Get what you can from them out there. One interesting trade, I think, would be something like a John Ross for a Solomon Wilcox. Why not? I mean, it doesn't seem like he's working out for the 49ers, so why not go ahead and trade him for him and bring Wilcox in as a defensive tackle or something like that? You could do that. You could also trade him to the Jets, which I'm not sure. I don't know what the Jets are doing right now. I know that they're trying to lose. You could possibly trade him in a third rounder, like someone is saying in the comments, for Quentin Williams, which I've talked about at length so far. Yes, that could be a trade that you can make, but you got to trade him somewhere. Even if it's the Las Vegas Raiders, even if it's the New England Patriots. I mean, primarily, you probably going to trade him to an NFC team if you can, but you're not going to keep him. You're not going to keep him. You're not going to keep him at all. So there's no point in holding on to him. I just honestly don't feel like there's a reason to keep him if you're not going to play him. And so obviously with the Bengals having A.J. Green, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all of these guys that they're playing over him, Mike Thomas, Alex Erickson, Auden Tate, it's a crowded room. So get what you can for Ross. I think that you should be fine and moving on from that. Now, I don't know what the rest of the league thinks of John Ross, but I think anyone with half a brain knows that if you can get this guy and you can work with him and incorporate him in your offense, yeah, you're going to have some ups and downs, but you'll probably be able to use him. And the more snaps that you give him, the more talent you'll see. Now, I think Ross gets a bad rep from most of our fans because obviously there's some frustration from him being hurt and stuff like that. But I think the big thing that people have to remember is just think about last season. Just think about the beginning of last season. John Ross was like leading the NFL in receiving yards within the first 3 weeks. And then he gets hurt. Then he comes back, has another big game. So there's potential there. It's not like this guy is complete trash. Like if you were to give him 60 targets, he's probably going to do something with it. I mean, he had another season where he scored 8 touchdowns, but that's neither here nor there. The time is now. The time is to get something for him. This is a toxic situation if you don't trade him. It's no point in keeping him because unless you feel like if you trade him now, you're not going to get proper draft compensation. If he signs somewhere else, that's just too much of a gamble. Like if Duke Tobin right now is waiting to see if John Ross walks next season, gets a bigger contract and gets a third or fourth compensatory pick for the next season, like we don't need, like, that's cool and all, but we need something right now. So to me, just speaking as a fan, I think John Ross could go somewhere, definitely be productive and make another team better. But he's not doing that on the Bengals bench, and you're really just sitting on an asset that is not bringing you any kind of return right now, and you need to go get some return on that. You need to go get some return on that asset. So we'll see what happens with the John Ross thing. That's just my side on it. I think that they should just go ahead and end this saga and go ahead and get him out of there. Nathan in the comments is asking, how is it toxic? I think it's toxic because you got a guy on the team that is frustrated with his role, that clearly does not want to be here, and he's still here. I think when you looked at the Colts game, they showed some pans of Ross on the sideline, and he was almost just kind of like grinning with a disgusted, silly look on his face, like, this is just stupid. Like, why am I not playing? And I think that that's definitely toxic. I think that that definitely affects your receivers. It affects your team. And then you have to think about it too, whether people want to make it about work or stuff like that, working hard and stuff like that. I mean, I think we've heard before that Randy Moss wasn't the most like hard working guy when it came to practice. He just was talented. And that's not to say that John Ross is that guy, but some guys just aren't going to go super hard like that in practice. Now, in the game, if you get that from him and he's not giving effort in the game, then I don't know. But I think if you were to put Ross in the game now, I'm pretty sure he's going to try to do what he can to make an impact. So we'll see what happens there. I think somebody else can get that out of Ross. It simply isn't this coaching staff, and it's not going to look good to other players because other players know that he can play. So we can say all we want as fans. Other players that are on the team know what John Ross is capable of, and they've always said it. Whether it was Sean Williams when we had him on for one of our first player interviews, whether it was TJ Houshmandzadeh that said it, and I respect their minds because they're players. They've seen this guy up close and personal. I mean, Ross has practiced with TJ Houshmandzadeh, and you have to remember that he's out there with guys like T. Higgins and all kinds of receivers out there. He was with Joe Burrow. So guys know that he can play. So it just sends a weird message to the locker room. So I think that this just needs to be a divorce, that they just go ahead and accept and move on. So those are my thoughts on it. I hope that John Ross is able to just get out there and get on a team that's going to use him and just make the best of his career. Because I think from a mental health aspect, I think that there were some mental things going on his first year. And it's just not been a good mix. It really hasn't. From all of those standpoints, the way that his career has gone here in Cincinnati. And I'm not in the John Ross fan club. I'm just saying, let's just be real. Has never really gotten a full opportunity here. Ends up being a waste of a 2017 draft pick because you're not even playing him at this point. So I would think if you spent a top 10 pick on a guy, you would try to get as much value from that pick as possible. Like, it's just the fact that you made that pick. So the fact that you made that pick, Duke Tobin, and that was not a Marvin Lewis pick, and that was a Duke Tobin pick, you have to justify it. And when you can't and you don't play him, it just makes the franchise look inept in terms of that. And it's going to make us look more inept when he goes somewhere and he explodes somewhere for a game or something like that. And it's going to look like, hey, well, the Bengals could have used that guy. How would you have been able to stop AJ Green, John Ross, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd? There's no way that you would have been able to stop it. But unfortunately, not going to happen here. So I didn't mean to talk that much on it, but whatever you can get for John Ross, I think you just take it at this point. So we'll see how this plays out. That's what I would do, but these are the Bengals. We don't know what they're going to do. But as usual, I believe you guys with a who day, all day, every day, especially on Sunday.
He gave his rookie-laden Bengals a high mark as they passed from the kindergarten of preseason to the first grade of regular league play.
Cincinnati's best came in the first quarter, the first time they had the ball. Quarterback Dewey Warren and fullback Tom Smiley combined for Cincinnati's first pass completion.
Bengal founder Paul Brown fashioned this novel design, as new to the game today as the forward pass was a century ago.
Montana dragged down at the 31-yard line.
In 1996, the Bengals finished strong and finished right.
Touchdown! Yes!
Tell you what, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. We got to bow to Corey Dillon.
Bulldog from the 32 with Mixon in the backfield. It's Dalton out to Mixon. He's got some room.
It's Mixon diving up and over.
We're gonna hammer home competition, preparation, and diligence in everything we do.
It's a new year. Same old question. How do you stop 85?
They're looking down the field for the home run ball. It's full. And in a day, touchdown!